All right, this is EUphoria. It's a podcast that invokes the feeling of euphoria, true happiness, about all things.
It's also a lot of other
LCS.
things that name, apparently. I keep getting tweets every week about what else euphoria means. Not
Make
that
sure
kind
you-
of show.
Make sure you include podcast when you search.
Yes.
That's all we're going to say. Of course, it's available on YouTube, iTunes, and SoundCloud. And here's the deal. We got a bunch of bets coming up. This is the weekend of resolving bets. If we fail this weekend, I'm definitely going on the wall of shame. Memento bet, the painting bet, the nuke duck bet. Everything will be resolved this weekend with only the Fnatic bet lingering.
Super quick explanation of the bets, just so everyone remembers. Memento 1 is him and Drakos in the Danish 1Cs.
Calling Denmark the best.
Calling Denmark the greatest. I think we agreed on a quick 5-second dance.
A champion dance, 5 seconds.
It might be the volleyball one, seeing as over there we'll never do it.
True.
Second one, we had the
Painting bet.
painting one, which is Hansama and
Jesus have to draw us a formal portrait of us. Think a very like classic Renaissance portrait.
will be done here as well. And the last one is the
Nuke duck bet, where we have to
duck
dress
one.
up
Oh,
like
yeah.
a duck and sing and/or rap.
It's
So
true.
We'll see what exactly we do for that one.
Now, sadly today we didn't get a guest.
Yeah, we couldn't get one.
So it's just me and Drakos.
Yeah, but I mean, I just want Rekkles, man. Do you remember last time he came on?
But
had
we
such
have
a nice
the
time.
cutout.
We do have the cutout.
Yeah,
It's a nice cutout.
I wish the cutout was
I
alive,
wish-
like a Disney movie. You know,
You could just come to life.
if we just wish
so
much.
hard.
Oh,
Believe.
this gag is kind of running out. What's happening
keep
behind
believing.
me? I just keep believing.
People in podcast land don't understand what's happening.
What's happening?
People on YouTube might soon understand. Open your eyes.
Oh, it's alive! Oh my god. I am so happy. I almost cried. That's what you always have to do in movies. You gotta cry and then something great
know,
will happen.
We are happy because, like, low key, we send a request every week. We're like, "Is this the week he's back? Give us Rekkles. Give us Fnatic. Where are you at?" And you're finally here. I'm so
Rekkles.
glad you're here, man.
Thank you for doing our disgustingly bad intro.
I hope
that
someone found it funny.
Actually, it was pretty okay. It was not that bad.
only people who watch the video will understand it. For people who did not watch the video,
we hid Rekkles behind the cutout.
we hid him behind the cutout, which you, by the way, didn't even know was there because you don't watch with video.
Check it out on video a little bit just so you guys can see the set so you can understand. We do our best to provide those nice audio descriptions as to
It's
what's
true.
happening. There's 3 of us at a table. It's intimate. We're drinking water.
So, Rekkles, how's life?
Life is pretty good. Not even tired actually, because my sleeping schedule has been nice ever since I go back from Sweden.
Okay.
Yeah, my mom forced me to a good sleeping schedule.
So what does it mean? Wake up at 8 or something?
Wake up at 9. Yeah,
Nice, dude.
I try and do
hit the
this-
gym.
Hit the gym.
Hit the gym.
Healthy and wholesome. All right.
Healthy and
Like,
wholesome.
have you been like super gymming since you've been
Oh, no,
out
no,
on
no.
stage?
The first weeks I was really chilling. I was not doing anything.
Okay.
A little bit depressed maybe even. And then ever since then I've kind of picked it up and started going to the gym again.
So what's the gains at? How much do
Oh.
you bench right now?
Actually, I've been trying to cut lately because almost the entirety of last year I was bulking and just eating everything I could get my hands on.
I'm doing that right now.
Yeah, how's that? For
Oh,
me,
it's
it was
great.
really hard.
Yeah.
I'm just eating anything.
He's just eating everything.
But you like it because I couldn't.
I feel
barely could.
disgusting.
Yeah, okay. So similar to me then.
This is the thing I don't understand.
But I'm kind of fake bulking. I just do what I normally do.
Is like, yeah, it's like not, and I know people always get tilted when we go too deep on these random off-topic topics. But here's the thing: 3,000 calories in a day is a lot of calories, and I need to eat like 3,500 in theory to gain weight. That's a lot of food.
Yeah,
Like,
that's,
if you're
that's
not-
pretty much what I was rocking last year, and
If
that
you're
was
not- yeah, if
that
you're
was 4 meals a day plus shakes.
And shake. It's
Yeah.
so
Shakes, man.
you do not feel good.
No, I didn't feel good.
You feel like
I
you feel
felt
like
terrible.
stuck in the
and
bathroom as
gross.
well.
Yeah,
But I gained like 20 kilos in total, maybe from 2016 autumn to end of last year, beginning of this year. I went from like 60 to 80.
That's
All right.
And
All right.
now I'm like
benching numbers.
75.
Come on, give it to
He
me.
doesn't have to give his bench number.
I think one rep would be like, 25, 70 maybe, 75. That was my one rep.
That's pretty
Dude,
good.
That's good.
It's pretty good.
I'm only
Back when I went with Coops, he was my teacher in the beginning.
the
You
legend.
got to do the bench properly.
Yeah.
All right.
Dude. Martin, God damn it. We ran this problem last time too. Deficio, what are you at? You're back in the gym.
So my trainer, it's an army dude who just got back. He was apparently in Estonia, because you have to be in Estonia if you're in the army for like half a year in case something happens. It's really useless, he said. So after he's returned, I've started again. Benching wise, I think I'm at. So we did 3x5, and where you start lower and then you go higher.
Yeah.
For this one.
But what's your one? What do you think your one rep is?
My one rep, I can probably get to like 70 or something. If Rekkles can get there, I'm probably slightly under him. I'm slightly under him.
Yeah, I'm probably like 65. I'm not strong. Just a reminder, if you're watching this and you're like, oh, wow, Jim Bro talk, gross. Or you're like, wow, weaklings.
Yeah, probably.
Can't bench 100.
Oh, yeah. I mean, these are sad numbers.
Yeah.
When it comes to physical fitness, it's you versus yourself, not you versus anyone else. So if you're better than us or worse than us, don't feel bad. And also, don't feel too good about yourself, Mr. 140 kilo bench. Nice light.
Yeah, that's not cool, by the way. You gotta stay under 100.
Yeah.
Less plates
That's
to put
too
on.
much.
You know?
You're too buff now.
We don't like that.
Speaking of benching, you benched yourself at the start of the season.
Jeez. That's a transition.
There you go. So, I mean, we got a lot of context when you did the interview with Travis about kind of like the initial decision and where you put yourself. Looking back on it, like, how do you feel about that decision at first to kind of take yourself off the team? Do you still feel like it was the right one?
I think for getting the wins on the board, it was probably the right one, which is in the end the most important thing. At least in my eyes, when I look back at 2018, I would probably be more disappointed if I played more games and we lost more rather than if I didn't play and we won more. So it should have been the right decision, but I've had this feeling that maybe I should have just played from the first place and just learned the champions like everyone else, every other ADC.
So you say winning the games is the most important, and obviously winning the games gets you higher placement, and that's going to get you there. But if you could have, let's say, made playoffs with Fnatic playing the whole time, even if you lost those games, do you feel like ultimately the team would have cared if they had to lose a few more games for you to either get comfortable on mages or for you guys to find out that AD carries were the better choice? How much does like winning in regular season actually matter to you guys? And
for me, at least from experience, if you get first or second, you have a pretty much guaranteed finals because you have such an advantage in your semifinals since the other team has to show their cards in a best of 5 in a quarterfinals when you can just sit it out and practice instead and plan some stuff that they might not be ready for. So I would say it's a very big deal to get first or second in comparison to third to sixth. But I think first or second doesn't really matter, and I think third to sixth doesn't really matter either.
Right.
But in my eyes, if I played from the first place, I think getting first or second would have been hard with the current competition we have in Europe. I think if I entered a couple of games on first time Heimer or first time Swain, then we wouldn't have made it.
Because you said as well, you know, if you kept playing and you'd learned the mages, you think that would also been an option? Like, because I remember when you did sub out, you did talk about how you wanted to start learning Swain and Vladimir and these kind of things. Like, did you start instantly doing that? Or were you more like, no, I'm just going to stick to 80 carries for a while, and then you suddenly felt forced maybe a patch or two later?
So just when they released the patch, I was still playing 80 carries. I just continued playing stuff like Kai'Sa, even Tristana, I thought was pretty fine. Back then, there wasn't the Stormacer, which was a bit of a newer thing lately. Right. But you could still, you know, just run the double seal item into IE, and that worked okay, I guess. Still, the Gwynsos champs were better, but it worked okay. So I actually was ready to play the carries for week 1 of LCS until Caps and Soas came back from Korea, and they brought this funnel idea with them. They actually played some duo queue in Korea, and they thought that this was like the best way to play League of Legends currently. So pretty much from day 1 of scrims to the split starting, which was roughly 8 days, I would say, we only played, I think, 1 game, which was not funnel, which didn't really allow me to show my 80 carries, because I think playing 80 carries in a funnel situation, if you are not the one getting funneled, it sucks, right? Yeah. So I was just experimenting with pretty much any of my picks that I play in SoloQ, which is not an 80 carry. So for example, if I get out of field to top lane, I usually like to play Ornn. If I get out of field to support, I like to play Janna. So I just tried all these picks on the 80 roll. And then going into week 1, I didn't really feel like I had much ready other than Ornn and Janna. And they banned Ornn both games. I know this is kind of new information because probably most people thought it was for our top laner. But the Ornn ban in both of those games was for me, because this was something I spammed basically in every scrim that we played. Because I thought that if we're playing funnel, the only thing that Caps needs to succeed is either someone that engages for him, which is the Ornn, or someone that protects him, which is the Janna. So I thought both of those picks were fine. And I thought even in the Misfits game that I played Janna in, I was playing just fine. I didn't really make any mechanical mistakes. I didn't really drop laning pressure when I shouldn't have. I thought I played up to standards, and we didn't really lose the game because of my pick. We lost the game because we tried to contest the bot side red level 1 when we could have just dropped it and traded sides instead.
Yeah, and it's interesting to hear about the Ornn pick specifically. And so with the Janna and then eventually the Karma,
That was first time Karma on stage. Actually, first time.
Okay, well that answers that. First time Karma on stage, a bit of an awkward situation.
Hey, 100% win rate.
Yeah.
Right there.
Didn't do anything. And I had to run like pretty much every wave because I had Varus, Shan, TF, Camille, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
So pretty much every wave I was killable.
And you were down like 7k gold or something.
Yeah, I just ran to my tier 2 and stayed there, which is honestly the job of a bot laner if you're in a funnel situation and your mid doesn't have prio, which was the case in both of our games, if I'm not mistaken, because I think we made some mistakes early. So that brings up the question, right? Should I have been the one playing funnel? Because that's something I've seen at least from the get-go, that people just thought I should be the one playing funnel. That makes more sense. But I think Caps is super good on the funnel champs. Like maybe even the funnel champs that we played were more fit for his style than for mine anyways, because we played stuff like Wukong, Master Yi, Nocturne, and the only real AD carry we played was Kai'Sa. And I think at that point, Kai'Sa wasn't really an AD carry anyways. It was more like an AP carry. So it actually made sense for us to put him in the funnel situation rather than me.
Which is, I mean, it's good to hear because I think there's a lot of people who wondered about that. Do you feel like Fnatic had maybe the wrong read on funnel? Because even when we saw other teams executing funnels, they were still playing a lot of bot lanes with AD carries. I think there's a lot of Ezreal lanes, like and lanes that would rather
the Heimerdinger ones too, and like G2 played like Heimerdinger bot lane with it, and yes, some people played Ezreal.
Yeah. So did you see any of this in scrims, like where people were running funnel and had different approaches to bot lane, and you guys just decided that the Janna was best for your team? Or was this something that kind of caught you off guard when you got on the main stage in those first few weeks and people were running a lot of the Heimer or a lot of these other bot lanes that weren't necessarily just about falling back and supporting the funnel, that were more about focusing on themselves in their own laning phase?
So I think the bot lane pick didn't really impact the games too much. I think the problem of our funnel read was how we played our mid jungle together.
Agree.
So, for example, if you look at a team like G2, who were probably the best at funneling, they used their mid jungle to pressure the side lanes. So they would take camps when it was necessary, but for the most part, they would push the wave and then just run to either side lane, and that side lane would just have to run because there's a Kai'Sa coming in. She's 2 or 3 levels above everyone else, so she will kill you even at your tower, right? So I think that's something we didn't do at all in either of the games or in any games that we practiced funnel. We just completely zoned in on farming and abandoning our side lanes, which is why I thought whatever I played, it wouldn't really have made that much difference. I know Janna was a bit of an weird pick in the end, but it was probably my best champion that I could just bring up out of nowhere with no time to practice really, because it honestly for me came out of nowhere. Like I saw 8-11 and I thought maybe AD carries aren't the best anymore, but I can still just play them. So I kept practicing them for the 1 or 2 weeks before they got back from Korea. And then when they got back, they just wanted to play funnel all of a sudden. And I wasn't ready for that. I didn't practice any of the other champs for this. And I've never really played off-meta champs either. I've always kind of been a player who uses his SoloQ time to like get better at what I'm already doing rather than exploring stuff that I haven't tried before. And I think, for example, for someone like Yarnan, he has been playing stuff like Heimerdinger, Singed, Karthus for years already. It's something he probably enjoys doing, and whenever he gets out of field, he just does it. He doesn't actually care too much about how the game goes or how other people are going to feel about him picking those champs. He just does it. And now that gave him a huge advantage over someone like me, who always tries to play an AD carry if I can, and if I can't, I try to play whatever I consider best for my AD carry that is playing instead of me. So for example, if I was out of field top lane, I like to play the Ornn because that allows my AD carry to get all the resources and I can just engage for him later. Or if I'm support, I like to play the Janna because then I can protect him with the Ardent. So I was very zoned in.
Such a team player right there.
I wasn't ready at all for the 8-11 patch, and I think that's why it ended up being so weird in week 1, and also why I ended up benching myself because I just couldn't keep up in the beginning.
Right, because obviously that leads to probably the most asked question I've seen, also from the ones we post on Twitter now, was like, oh, Rekkles says you can't play AD carries, yet Uzi and whatever other like Ruler, these guys are playing AD carries and they're winning. And Hans Sama played AD carries in Europe. Misfits were 9-0. So I think actually, because I know there was a lot of discussions around you not playing. Some were positive, a lot of them were negative. The whole idea around some people say you can play AD carries, but Rekkles says you can't. I feel like you got misunderstood there a little bit.
Yeah.
Because, correct me if I'm wrong here, what you tried to say is you can play AD carries, but if you have a mage player, it's better to use him because mages are just better.
Exactly. So I think for other people it was different because they didn't really have anyone else that could come in and play the mages for them. So they either had to learn it themselves or just continue doing what they were already good at, which was playing AD carries. And I think if I didn't have Wipo on the side, or if we didn't have Wipo on the side, I would have done that as well. That would have just been a must for me. I couldn't just dodge playing mages when they were as strong as they were. So for us, it was a very different situation because Wipo was already up at his 99 to 100%, I would say, on most of these mages because it's something he's played for years already. So to get his place, I would have to become like next level almost at these champions, which I've never ever played before. So it didn't make much sense for us to play me when our goal was to play stuff like Swain, Vladimir, Ryze, maybe some Yasuo in the bot lane. Like I have never touched these champions and I don't think I can reach higher standards than him in the amount of time that I was given. It was just not possible, honestly.
So how did you feel like watching this lineup from the sidelines? They still had a good performance. You know, you played 3 games now. I think you're 2-1 technically.
Yeah.
2-1.
Good old that first Schalke game where they threw a Baron. Good stuff. But how did you feel about the team's performance when you weren't there? Like, did you see weaknesses that you could have solved being on the lineup? Were there things that you saw that you wouldn't have even considered them doing and succeeding? What was your opinion generally for those weeks that you weren't a part of the team? Or
so
weren't on stage, rather?
I thought the team transformed from being very controlled and macro focused to not controlled at all and very micro focused, which was fine because the meta kind of wants that to happen anyways. Like the meta rewards the team that is the most aggressive, the most proactive, the ones that goes for the crazy plays. Like if you pull off a dive in the early game, regardless of where it is, it will give you a huge advantage. Before it would be if you get a bot lane dive off and you get your AD carry ahead, then that will reward you in about 20 minutes of time. Top lane wouldn't be existent and mid lane would be more of a pressure point than something you wanted to play towards. Meanwhile, now I feel like you have a lot of choices. You can go to pretty much any lane you want and whoever gets ahead has the option of carrying. So in a way, the game has actually become a better game, in my eyes at least, because I feel like it just allows more people to take part and you can clearly see now who's a good player and who isn't. But for my situation back then, it was just like there was just no way I was going to make that work. And I thought it was fine. Like I thought they were playing fine. I was pretty happy for them that they were successful without me. But at the same time, it felt like maybe this is the end in a way. Like maybe Riot doesn't fix this and I will be in a situation where either I have to actually learn these things and get better at them than Wipo, or I won't be playing anymore. And I thought that was probably my lowest point of this whole situation that I ended up in, when I was actually considering like just leaving League of Legends completely or maybe going into coaching. I don't know. It was never really like, or casting. Like it was never really at that point, but retiring was definitely in my mind because I just don't have the interest anymore in the game in that way. Like if I was a rookie, I think I would have been fine with the changes because then I would have had the drive to relearn the game. And I didn't really have a legacy to fall back on, or I didn't really have these 7 years of experience that I have now to get wins with.
So but for you at this point, is it just that you just enjoy AD carry and that's what you like about League of Legends and that's what keeps you playing? And so like everything else is just, you're not willing to go.
Honestly, I feel like the game is not that fun anymore. I think SoloQ, for example, is just like, it's tragic, man. Like playing this stuff is just, I just don't want to do it anymore. And so, I know I still have to because it's a huge advantage if you do spend the hours, but I just don't feel like the game is that fun anymore.
So what do you think when you like look back at whatever you thought was like the peak time for you in League of Legends? What is it? Can you identify anything that like changed for you that made it a different experience? Was it because I mean there's so many threads across so many patches where people complain about so many different things, either genuinely from themselves or parroting their favorite streamer. But I'm curious from your perspective, like what was it that stuck out to you that like really made League of Legends special to you back in the day that's not there anymore?
I think the reason why I feel like SoloQ is so tragic now is because I don't feel like you can carry alone anymore. I don't know if this is an AD carry specific thing, but I just feel like you have so much less power as an individual. So, for example, for SoloQ, where it's all about the individual, the game has become kind of unplayable in a way. And for pre-made, I feel like it's still really fun because maybe even more fun now because you can actually get rewarded for working well together. But just SoloQ in general now, I just don't want to do it anymore, which is why I felt like it was so hard for me to pick up the new stuff because I just didn't feel like I had the platform to do it on. And I'm much more interested now in just using these 7 years of experience, like these AD carry stuff that I have going for myself. Like I would consider myself at least on top of the charts when it comes to AD carry. So I just want to use that to get wins, get trophies, and make like a mark, make a legacy, you know?
Yeah.
And when Riot then forces me to kind of relearn the game, then I just don't feel like I have it in me anymore.
It's so interesting. First of all, because the thing you highlight, you know, it's hard to win like on your own or carry on your own. Like a lot of the changes that happened going into the summer split was actually to try and push individuals.
Yeah, that's why I said that maybe this is an AD carry specific thing.
Could definitely be 100% because it was like, you know, you get more gold as an individual, and also if you get a shot down on someone, you get more gold for yourself, you know, the turret, everything. And with AD carry specifically, because I played quite a lot of AD carry in SoloQ and then stopped doing it also around this year because I kind of had the same feeling as you on something. I was also way worse, obviously, but just want to highlight that in case anyone is confused. But whenever you're playing AD carry, my problem is a lot of the reworks and new champions all bring multiple ways to get to you. And even when they build like a bruiser, they kill you in 2 seconds. Yeah. So I'm like, great, I'm a 2 AD carry, 2 item Twitch. You know, I feel like my laning phase was pretty good. I've gotten 2 kills. You know, I'm ready.
And then you get one shot.
And then I walk in and the first super long range Irelia stun, just from out of nowhere, just stuns me. She like ults me and then kills me in a second. And I'm like, great. I guess my 2 items and me winning laning phase didn't actually do anything. Now, obviously, you're missing the peeling and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and that's my perspective when I hear about this, is that like the ideal state, right, in theory, let's say if you're playing as a bottom lane, is that one half of the bottom lane makes up for like the tankiness and the peeling and offers the CC to protect you, and you bring in more damage. And in theory, your 2 parts combined should be better than any 2 bruisers, in theory. But in reality, I think what it often feels like, especially as champions get more and more mobility, like new Akali, new Aurelia, like Aatrox, if he somehow gets on top of you, all these champions feel like there's not, like I don't feel in control 9 times out of 10 when I play against these champions, unless I know that specific matchup 100%.
And that's kind of thing where there was a lot of discussions a couple of months ago around tank meta from a SoloQ perspective. Oh, it's not so fun. It's just tanks top lane. They're always the best. Even in SoloQ, you know, a lot of tanks would win. And then obviously Riot went the direction of more damage, more solo carry abilities. And now people are saying, oh, there's too much damage in the game. And I definitely preferred the less damage version because to me, as a non-bruiser player, bruisers are the least fun to play against. Like a big tank, I know at some point in the game I'll be strong enough that I can actually kill him, or I can sustain against him if it's like whatever, Cho'Gath, Mundo, that kind of stuff. But I know a bruiser who gets ahead in the game will completely destroy me at any point as the building is collapsing. Also, support.
Riot heard I said so.
Yeah, they're like, oh, yeah, get in there.
Boys, we were critical.
Also, supports in lane.
But I think you might be right. I think it actually might be AD carry specific. I don't know because I don't play other roles. But
when
let's say
I play supports, I feel great.
Yeah,
like, it's awesome.
But let's say it is AD carry specific, then I think it's understandable for me to say such a thing.
All right, hold on, guys. We're gonna come back to this in just a second and figure out what the hell is going on here with the thing. Give us a sec. All right, so we had a bit of a delay there as we sorted out some studio difficulties.
We didn't die.
Surprise skylight opened up. We were not, smote down in an instant for speaking ill of SoloQ. But let's take a spin. Let's talk a little bit about like how do you actually fix SoloQ? Like what do you think like would need to happen for you to feel like playing SoloQ is this worthwhile experience again?
So I think the first thing that has to change, at least from an AD carry perspective. So for me, it's a bit hard to say, right? Because I have my perspective, but I'm sure other roles really enjoy this meta. Like supports probably love this because they can, for the first time probably in their entire existence, be the prime carry. Like I think, for example, right now, support role is more important than ADC role. I should be the one taking the bullet. Like if my support wants to play Pyke, for example, I should play S role because that allows him to play Pyke to the next level. But how it actually should work when you think about it, there's an AD carry and there's a support. The support should be the one taking the bullet so the AD carry can succeed. So the game in a way is a bit unbalanced right now, but I would say that maybe I'm biased because I'm the AD carry, so I'm probably having the worst of times right now. Yeah, but I would say the game has to be longer. That's just the first thing that has to change. So they have to make Nash more balanced because how it feels right now is that it's way too easy to take. You don't even need an AD carry to take Nash, which is the first problem. Like why would you be able to take down Nash with Amundo and Sejuani? Like you should need damage from somewhere. Otherwise, what's the point of AD carries?
It's gonna take a long time, to be fair, to do that, but yeah.
But it's possible. Like there's a lot of games in SoloQ right now where I see the enemy damage champion somewhere, and I just assume there's no way they are on Nash, and then Nash falls 5 seconds later.
But Mundo never dies, and Sejuani has.
But I would say even if you make a tanker, you still need to make the buff more balanced, dealable with, because how it feels right now is that once the creeps are buffed up, there's no way to clear them. So you just go somewhere as 5, buff up the creeps, and those creeps will push all the way to Nexus. Like there's no stopping them.
So do you think, when the game becomes longer, do you just feel like you're not, as an AD carry, you're not hitting that window that AD carries used to hit, where it's like the 6 item point or the 4 item point where you get those core items and you actually are like as powerful as you should be compared to how weak you are?
Yeah, so that's for me at least the biggest reason why SoloQ is not a fun place anymore. And why it's so different from pre-made, because pre-made games usually go on for a little bit longer because you don't just get Nash out of the blue. So you might actually get to the later stages, which is when, in my eyes, at least now, AD carries come alive. I don't think you have too much power early game, pretty much close to 0, I would say. Maybe even negative because you're like a free kill that some of the other champions might wanna use to get themselves going. And for the mid game, I think you just don't really have any items right now that you can buy that gets you a strong mid game. I think maybe Lucian is like the only champion because he goes Blade into Black Cleaver, or Kai'Sa with her Stormracer Guinsos. But I think the crit AD carries or the norm of AD carries don't really have a mid game place currently with the items. So I would say late game is their place. And in SoloQ, there is no late game, which is why SoloQ is not really like a place to practice the game anymore. For me, the only reason why I would play SoloQ currently is A, I don't have anything else to do, or B, I want to practice certain champions for the first 15 to 20 minutes because after that, there is no game anymore.
So just to add some counter arguments or some other points to this, obviously, because when the Baron change happened where the Baron was tankier but dealt less damage, I remember Riot specifically talking about how one of the goals was it was supposed to be easier to just like start it and then be ready to fight. You wouldn't get punished as much for baiting Baron as you did in the past. We took a lot of damage from it. If you didn't have a tank jungler or a tank top lane, actually just a tank jungler because your top lane was in the side lane, you couldn't really bait it and you just had these like long, boring 10 minutes of nothing going on. So this was more like you can start it now and then you can force a fight while you're at the Baron.
Yep.
A change I actually liked. I just feel like the Baron deals slightly too little damage, so that needs to be a little bit more. But
I just feel like it needs to be harder to take. I feel like you just need an AD carry to take Nash. This should be
that's obviously
given.
But then goes against the diversity part of it, where the non-AD carry players are probably like, yes, I can play Swain bot lane and we can still do Baron, you know?
Who has there, like...
I'm sure there's someone...
No, but like the thing is like...
Maybe new players.
I mean, for sure. And there's going to be some people who super duper enjoy the diversity in the bot lane. The people who enjoy experimenting and playing a ton of different stuff. And I think that's cool and I would support that. But I agree that there is a threshold where it's like, if Baron is going to give you a buff that strong, it needs to have a super high cost. So like, I'd love to see some like, let's get some raid mechanics in there. Like, let's put an enrage timer, right? Like, if it takes too long to kill Baron, Baron just starts hitting harder and harder and harder,
that's cool.
right? Like, do something more to make this challenging so you're rewarded for either killing it quickly or saving cooldowns to burst it, or like something to make it more dynamic than just, hey, it doesn't do any damage. You can just literally ignore everything that comes out of it because it's not going to affect you. If you're a Mundo or a Sejuani, you don't have to care. If you're an AD carry, you care about the damage, but as long as someone's tanking for you, it just doesn't matter.
I actually really like the idea of, it gets stronger the longer it's active.
Yep.
So the longer it's in a fight, basically.
Yeah.
Because then you can still start the Baron to bait the team fight, disengage without being too low the first, 10 seconds, 15 seconds. But if you're there for longer than that, it obviously gets super, super difficult. So I actually think that idea is pretty cool.
Because
about the game length, super quick though, the problem, again, from what Riot has announced with all the patch changes, was that some of the games were too long, and then people were stuck in losing games for, 40 minutes.
But if it's a 40-minute game, it's not a lost game.
Well, that's how a lot of people saw it, and then, game time, perfect time would be like around 30 minutes maybe, but that sucks for AD carries, because then you might have just hit your third item if you're doing well, and it's like, yay, I'm ready, or we lost the game.
Yeah.
So there's this entire thing where the AD carry role and how it's been shaped over the last couple of years does not fit into the idea it feels like Riot has for how a SoloQ game should look, where it's like 30 minutes of great action, a lot of diversity, you're able to get a Baron, it feels great if you're winning, and you finish the game. But again, for most AD carries, it's like, well, past 30 minutes is when we start playing League of Legends. So it feels like one role out of the 5 does not fit into the grand plan unless all AD carries become stronger in the early game and on 1 and 2 items.
That's actually a good question. Would you, from your perspective, would you rather see, if you had a choice between, let's say, the game is a bit longer through whatever means, but averagely the game is longer, you get to hit that 3-item point, that 4-item point more consistently, or would you rather see AD carries up to a point where they can, on one item, compete with a lot of these bruisers, where if the bruiser isn't hitting every single one of their abilities perfectly, like you can outplay them, and it does feel more like an even matchup as opposed to, we were off camera when you said this, but you talked about like Nocturne as a champion as an example, who literally just point and clicks you down when he's doing well.
No, I would actually say that I think AD carries should be late game oriented, because I like the idea of having every role excel at something. I think that's the first place of the game in my eyes. At least like the support should excel in the early game, and then he should slow down because he doesn't get enough gold. But now he gets too much gold, so he doesn't actually slow down. In many cases, I feel like when I play support and I don't farm, I get more gold than if I play AD carry and I farm, because the support items are that strong. You get so much gold for not basically doing anything. And then for the jungle, it should be kind of similar. He should be super strong early game, and then he should slow down a little bit. And then maybe a top laner should be more mid-game oriented. Same for mid laner, maybe more mid-game or late-game oriented. But how it feels right now is that AD carry don't actually succeed at anything. Because even in the later stages, then I feel like you would rather have a Swain with 6 items than an AD carry with 6 items. Maybe before.
Debatable.
Now it's a bit more different, because now AD carries are a bit better due to the changes. But
you're actually
before,
worse on 6 items.
Yeah, but you get there faster.
Yeah, you get there faster, but you are worse on 6 items.
Yeah, I know.
Than you were.
But you actually get your items now before the game ends, so that's a plus. But I would say just make the game longer. That would be an already good fix, because then everyone gets a chance to show what they're good at. So you get the early game still the way it is right now. You get the mid game still the way it is right now, and then there's more than 1 Nash in the game. There's 2 Nash, and then there's an Elder Drake as well, because there's actually an Elder Drake in the game that spawns at 35 minutes. If people didn't know. And I understand if they don't know, because there's no 35-minute games anymore. But I feel like if that already changes, like let's say they make the Nash harder to take or less valuable once you get it, then there will be a second Nash in the game, there will be an Elder Drake in the game, and that's when AD carries come alive in that Elder Drake fight. And that for me already would be enough, because then I have a place to aim for, a place to play for. Meanwhile, right now it feels so not rewarding to play a late game ADC, and I would much rather just put myself on a champion that builds early game items in a role that shouldn't be an early game role, which is, in my eyes, the reason why it, in the first place, became mages, became bruisers, because there wasn't a late game, and it's just better to play a champion that exceeds in the early game if you are playing for the early game.
Yeah, and I mean, just so many of these champions are just ridiculously effective at killing people, right?
Yep.
And there's so many aggressive options you
Sure.
can play off.
And they will obviously say, hey, we had late game AD carry meta for a couple of years where if we didn't kill them at 20 minutes, they would just kill us towards the later.
But I think that's
stages.
fair. I think that's
Yeah,
completely
yeah.
fair.
That's
if,
obviously
if
the-
I manage to go by 30 minutes without dying or keeping myself fine in the game, I should be rewarded
On
for
a
that.
weak champion, and your team has an
I should be rewarded for that.
Yeah.
I should get to a point where I am able to do what they did to me for 30 minutes back to them. I understand though why, for example, tank players complained before because they didn't really have much to offer other than an engage, and otherwise they would just die. But for example, when a bruiser player complains when not succeeding to kill me for the first 30 minutes of the game, I just do not understand it because it's my time now. Like, you had your chance, now it's my chance. And I just don't feel like I have that chance currently, which is, for me, the biggest problem.
It's fair. Also because a lot of supports, defensive supports, I believe, got nerfs. And that was obviously one of the problems before. From Bruce's perspective, it was like, I jumped this AD carry, and then there's a Janna or Lulu next to him, buffing him with shields and Ardent Sensor. And
I think Ardent Sensor was over the top, but I think the shield supports without Ardent Sensor is in a fine place. Currently, they're even in a fine place. I play a lot of Janna, so
a lot of them got nerfed as well, right? You know, some of the defensive items got nerfed, so we might be at a point where even as a defensive support, you can't keep your Jinx or whatever alive in the mid game.
Yeah.
Which maybe you could before when it was really strong and people played Janna, Lulu, whatever all the time.
But I think that's fair. In the mid game, it should be not easy for the bruisers, but it should be doable, you know? I understand, though, in the later stages that they can't, but then you're in the later stages. You've played the game for 35 minutes and you haven't won yet. The AD carries should be in their prime position, especially if they have a Janna or Lulu next to them.
Window. It's interesting.
It's a never-ending discussion as well.
I mean, yeah.
But you convinced me, though, because when I came here today, I thought that maybe this is something that everyone feels, but now it's a bit more clear to me that this is maybe more AD carry.
Yeah, which I mean,
maybe,
which is still, I think that a lot of your points are super valid, and I'm interested to see because AD carries have been buffed a lot recently. I'm curious, like how much this change trends for SoloQ.
You actually think 8.15 was a buff?
Well, I mean, the costs are cheaper.
When do you think about it? Do you think it was a buff?
My impression was that it was a buff because despite, I mean, Storm Razor becoming much cheaper as an already very powerful first item for the champions that abused it. I mean, yes, you lost some of the stats on it, so 6 items, as you mentioned earlier, is weaker. But my assumption, now admittedly, I am not an AD carry player, would be that it would make AD carry stronger because the thing that makes Storm Razor so good is not the base stats for me, but the active and the free crit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a buff towards 3 items. Getting there quicker. But after that, without having done the math on the nerf to IH damage, it might actually hurt quite a bit towards the late game. But then the patch also introduced Akali, who's definitely not good friends with AD carries.
Yeah.
So that is obviously a problem. And she's
good friends with anyone.
Yeah, that's
like
true.
That's your argument. Yeah, but they introduced Akali. Like, fair.
Yeah,
well, who cares about items now? The game's over.
Looking at the patches as a whole there, so I think item-wise, like, making it pickaxe BF was the thing I enjoyed the most out of it. I hated BF. It was so annoying. And then also being able to just get it slightly earlier. And again, the cheaper Storm Racer I liked as a buff towards getting the 3 items. We still haven't really seen that many crit AD carries, though. We just see the same old AD carries who already like Storm Racer be like, perfect, this is even better. Yeah. You buff this item for someone else, but I'm actually taking advantage of it. So it seems like the change was not enough. Do you consider it a buff?
I actually thought on 8.4, like when I planned my return, I thought 8.15 is the time because I looked at the PBE notes and I saw good changes. I thought all the changes that were there were changes that were needed. So I told them that maybe for 8.15 I should get some playtime because I think AD carries might be good again.
Mm-hmm.
And then when they actually released the live patch, which are the numbers that we are currently seeing, I thought 8.14 was better. I thought 8.14 was the prime ever since 8.11 for AD carries, because even though IE, for example, is 200 gold cheaper, it's better to take an extra wave to get 5% more true damage, and I think it's 10 AD or 5 AD maybe. I'm not sure.
Mm-hmm.
It just feels like the stats you lose for 200 gold, which is 1 wave, is not.
Yes.
It's not like it doesn't balance out.
I mean, it's
and
definitely
for Storm Racer, I feel like they made the item better for non-AD carries. than for AD carries. Because now it builds out of long swords. And I think most of the crit AD carries do not want long swords. When you go into your laning phase as a Tristana, you don't want to go
back on double long
yeah,
sword.
you don't
want to
go
back on
and build
BF.
double long sword. You want to go back and build
Sure.
as much attack speed as you can, or like a high flat AD item. And I think the old components of Stormracer was better for that. I think the pickaxe, what was it, pickaxe, BF, double dagger,
So it used to be-
that was
yeah.
perfect for a Tristana or a Sivir or
And I mean, we're hitting
or a
this,
Caitlyn if you want to play that stuff. I don't, but if someone wants.
and we hit that point. I mean, Caps with the Stormrazor on the Wukong.
Yeah, so I think all the bruisers now love the Stormracer because it builds out of AD. And that's pretty much all you want as a
It
bruiser.
was definitely supposed to be an AD carry buff.
So I
was
thought
the whole
8.15 was
thing.
actually a bad patch for AD carries. I thought that if I got to do it over again, I would have liked to play 8.14 instead.
Well, you get if you go Stormrazor, Zeal item, IH, you get that 700 gold quicker
Yeah.
than before.
Yeah.
So that obviously is meaningful, but then the argument is, well, I actually rather have to only get it 500 gold earlier and then get the old Infinity Edge, as an example.
I also think they should have went through with the seal changes because on PBE they changed them so they were 25% crit instead of 30. So you would cap out at 100 and it would be like a nice feeling and it would just be better. They would be cheaper and 25 instead of 30. But then they just kept the 30. So now you go by 120% every game, but you don't really like get what you pay for in a way.
Yeah.
So it just doesn't feel that great for crit AD carries, which is why I understand people that don't play them. I don't want to play them either.
Yeah.
I was super happy that I got Ezra on stage, which is not something I would want to say because Ezra is probably my least favorite champion.
Hey,
But
you
the current
almost you one
situation-
tricked it at some point. Where
Yeah,
they banned all
Don't
your
forget
AD
when you and
carries.
Bora played Karma Ezreal. We sat down. You told me he was your favorite champion. Times have changed.
Yeah. But this is the situation we're in. Crit AD carries are just not there yet.
Have they made any changes to 8.16 yet on PBE? Or
I honestly, after 8.15 PB, when I was scouting it for like 2 weeks straight and I was super duper hyped and I was ready to come back and then the live one comes out and it's just not the same. It was not even close to be the same. I just don't read PBE patch notes anymore because they're just pranking me and probably giving me hopes.
Is it not enough though for you if you can play Jhin, Ezreal, Kai'Sa, Xayah, these kind of things?
Yeah, it's enough. I mean, I will be playing.
Yeah.
It's
You're here now.
Yeah, it's
so-
not news that I'll be playing next week. But I just don't feel like this is my meta because my meta is crit AD carries and crit AD carries is probably the lowest tier possible
Yes.
right now for AD carries. Like Kai'Sa is good because she doesn't build crit. Varus is good because it doesn't build crit. Astro is good because it doesn't build crit. So you can just keep going down the list. And Jhin is a special case, but Jhin runs Hail of Blades.
Mhm.
So that gives him like double the damage of any other AD.
Yeah, it's
yeah.
absolutely
Also,
insane.
Oh, yeah, there's always has to be one stupid keystone in the game
Yeah.
at any given moment that only one or two champions can abuse. It was Kleptomancy with Ezreal and Gangplank for the longest time. Now it's Hail of Blades with Jhin. No one else in their right
But I
mind.
don't think anyone will want to go down the route of playing Tristana or Sivir or Caitlyn or Jinx. Like,
We've seen a
name a
little
crit
bit
AD
of that.
carry and name someone that plays it. I've only seen Chelly in LPL play Tristana. I don't know if it's a one trick or if he actually thinks it's good, but
We've had
It's losing pretty much every
Tristana,
game,
we've
so.
had Caitlyn, we've had Sivir being played. Again, all of them just a little bit. Obviously, none
Yeah.
of them is like LCK is like, oh, for KT, Ashe is open. Let's
Yeah.
pick Ashe because she's just
it's perfect.
you have utility from your bot lane, extremely solid laning phase, like great.
Yeah, it's perfect.
So the utility AD carries or the ones who can actually either send you with a support like Xayah or Ezreal who can allow you support to roam seems to be the meta. So from another role's perspective, there seems to be enough AD carries.
There is.
Because there's like, what, 6, 7 AD carries now that are viable, and we normally never have more than that viable anyway.
Oh, for sure.
It's just, as you said, it's not your meta because you're not
And I
having
don't
the
think
late game
the
ones.
crit changes that Riot made in 8.15 made crit champions good. I actually
Right.
think they made them worse. So I don't know what their plan is for 8.16, which is the playoff patch, if I'm not mistaken.
Mhm.
But I wouldn't be surprised if the ADC meta remains the same for the rest of
Yeah, I didn't hear about big
I mean,
changes.
I don't know. Yeah, is the
On
truth.
PvE,
And because the
the-
thing is, you talk about looking at PB, and to be honest, we mostly stay away from it. Short of like someone being like, "Oh, they finally nerfed that champion." That's open. In this case, Aatrox, they nerfed the healing on his E. Thank God, it's coming through. But that's also PvE. So, like you said, it could be a bait. They could buff it. You never know.
It would be interesting if for Worlds. So imagine we play playoffs. It's the current meta.
Yep.
And then because there's I believe 2 patches before Worlds. One of them will get released during playoffs, and we don't switch, obviously. And then another one gets released right after playoffs. Like, that's 2 more patches where some changes could happen to AD carries.
Yep.
I could see a world where crit AD carries with the correct buffs would suddenly become meta for Worlds, even though they haven't been meta for all of Summer Split, which it actually could happen.
Which speaks for the nature of this game and why it's not that great. In my eyes, at least.
In your eyes.
I just think the way other games do it, when they have like an enormous patch between seasons, and then every other patch after that is more of a hot fix than anything else. Just makes it so if you find a champion that you're really good at and you make it work, you're gonna get rewarded for doing so by winning or having the chance of winning a trophy in Europe and then bringing that all the way to Worlds. So a good example would be, for example, last year when I was playing Kennen. That was one of my best champions, I think, to this day. And it was a very, very special champion. So it gave me a lot of following, which I think is great. If Riot makes a champion that isn't supposed to be played in the bot lane and I find out how you played in the bot lane and that makes me special, I shouldn't get punished for doing so. But that's how I felt, at least. I used it to my own advantage to winning games in the LCS. Riot saw that and then they just nerfed it. And I just feel like I would have been better off not playing it in the first place and saving it for Worlds. But that's not how it should work. At least that's not how I think it should work. I think it should work so that if you find a champion that you're good at, you specifically, you should get rewarded for doing so.
Makes me think we should have a special
Because,
balance episode.
like, imagine a
By
world
some of the
where
balance.
Season 7 Worlds was me on Kennen almost every game, or teams having to ban Kennen.
Yeah,
That would have been
And
a
the thing is like
special world.
I 100% guarantee you that someone from the balance and the live design team has an excellent counter argument to this. But
Oh,
I
most
don't
of
know.
it-
Yeah,
what
the
it
counter
is.
argument is that Kennen top was great.
Yeah, and most of
Well,
it also
yeah,
is based on SoloQ
sure.
numbers, right?
But
Yeah.
Kennen top wasn't even building Hurricane for the most part. And that was the reason why it stopped being playable in the bot lane. Because they
Right.
removed the stun procs
Yeah.
with the Hurricane.
Which was a super wholesome interaction when you're losing against Kennen. So, but I see. Yeah, there's a lot of struggles when it comes to balance, and I don't want to like. I don't know a lot of the stuff that the balance team knows, and a lot of the numbers from SoloQ. But the eternal struggle is always going to be balancing SoloQ and balancing competitive play.
Also, you're balancing 5 roles. Everyone has different opinions. I'm sure a lot of people said, "Man, 80 carry bot, Kennen 80 carry bot was so annoying." I'm so happy they
I'm sure
nerfed
it was.
It was
But if it was that
obnoxious or
great,
whatever.
people would have played it. And I was
It's
the only
true.
one that played it.
Yeah. I mean, that is very true. I want to say they didn't nerf it because you played it.
So why would you say they nerfed it? Because of the top lane cannon?
Well, so that's what I have to assume, that it was either something that was too strong in SoloQ, or
I can't say for certain, but I guarantee if the design team decides to nerf something that they see is like, if you were playing it, like, I guarantee that like some of the Galio nerfs that came through were a lot because of pro play, because that champion wasn't as good in SoloQ as it was in pro play, right? But for something as niche as Kennen, maybe if it was dominating in LCK, but I don't even think it was a super OP pick in top lane.
Only a few played in the top, and the ones that didn't even
So-
build Hurricane. They just ran Blade into Mallet into Wit's End.
I mean, my assumption would then just be that historically it's a super oppressive laning pick, and my guess would be that they have some kind of SoloQ numbers to back it up.
there's also sometimes the reason that they see a champion being played too much in a role they didn't intend the champ to be played
But I think
in.
that's an awesome part of League of Legends, man.
Sure, I mean,
That's why I'm fond of the whole idea of having mages in the bot lane, because I think it's awesome that you can play different champions in different roles where they're not supposed to be. But as soon as that happens, Riot just not gonna happen.
Well, for now they've left the mages in the
Yeah, and
bot
they've
lane.
supported it to a
Well,
I-
they've left one. I think the only one that people actually play now is Swain. Otherwise, people don't actually play mages anymore.
Yeah, occasional Vladimir, but yeah, pretty
Maybe mages get buffed now in the bot lane. I don't know, but it's hard.
Which
obviously,
makes me happy, but I actually thought having like different niche picks from players is a cool aspect of the game. Like I loved playing Kennen. That was one of
But
my favorite
I
things
think-
that I've done in my entire career.
Can you not pick Heimerdinger a bot right now?
I think you can, but
So is it because
you have to be great at it.
Well, that's the thing, right? To me, the reason mages disappeared quicker than I thought they would from pro play in bot lane.
People weren't good at it.
Well, it's because I've played AD carry for 7 years. So the moment an AD carry is equally good, I will pick an AD carry. Even though Heimerdinger, Vladimir, Yasuo, these kind of things are actually still really good bot lane.
That's why we still use Wipo, because we think it's still really good. And he's great at it.
So I feel like the bot lane diversity, the option is there.
It is.
But obviously in pro play, because again, you guys have been playing the same role for so many years, when you can pick an AD carry, if it is a 50-50, you probably always go to the AD carry.
Yeah. I'll always play DC.
And
always,
that's,
no
now you get into the struggle of being a designer. Obviously, we come up with ideas here and trying to explain things, but we obviously
and
not
also
live designers.
we don't speak for the design team.
We do not speak for them.
I have a lot of faith in that team, but also
it's just
we can't speak for them 100%.
I can see one of them sit here and say, wait, so you're telling me that mages are still viable and bruiser bot lanes are still viable, but they don't get picked in pro play for other reasons, and yet we just said only one is viable. So they might feel like this is unfair, and then if they buff the mages again, people are like, oh, you can only play mages now. This sucks. It's like, to me, it feels like if you take you as the example here, and if you could play Vladimir, Swain, Yasuo at the highest level.
Yeah, I would mix it up for sure.
You would definitely mix it up. So clearly there's a lot of viable things bot lane. I just think it's natural that most AD carry players, when they can play an AD carry, picks an AD carry.
Yeah.
And that's why we start eliminating from pro play at least. But like, I can almost guarantee you there's going to be some important game somewhere where out of nowhere, someone is going to pick a surprise mage and bot. And we know we as casters are going to be like, idiots, that's not viable. What are you doing? And then this guy like goes 5-0 and is insane in laning phase. And we're like, oh, I guess that's cool. So it feels like diversity is still there. Or the option.
Yeah, and I want to see how, like, as it continues to grow, right? What does the playoffs patch look like? What do those changes look like?
Probably a small one, I guess.
Hopefully Aatrox nerfs come through. That would make me happy not to see that champion permit every single game. But let's jump back on a little bit about your story, because I think we got caught up in this balancing the solo
it's been a while.
And it's like a 30-minute hole we just went down. And it was dope. I'm not trying to flame the discussion. It was a good time. But I'm curious, like, so if you're not playing a ton of SoloQ is not super pleasant.
Oh, actually, I do play probably the most SoloQ. I think there was a Reddit thread not too long ago, which followed the amount of games everyone plays in NA and EU. And I think in EU, Caps had the most. Other than Sarnuxelot, he's like 2.7k, but he wasn't always playing LCS either, and he's always been like a grinder, so I gave him respect for that. But I think from my own team, at least, Caps was around 1.6k, and I was roughly 1.5. So I still play a lot of SoloQ. I'm honestly not doing much other than playing League of Legends, even if I don't enjoy playing SoloQ.
So
because it's just a necessity.
How do you stay mental? How do you avoid mental boom
in SoloQ?
In SoloQ, if you play so much and you don't enjoy playing it,
you just have to, like, I've been around enough now to know that I will lose games. There's no way I play SoloQ and win every game. This is just the world. In pro play, it's a bit different. Then I can expect winning every game, I would say, at least in Europe.
Mm-hmm.
But for SoloQ, there's a high chance my win rate's going to be something between 50% and 55%. So I don't really get upset when I lose. I just feel like...
Okay.
So
either I wasted time or I didn't waste time. So for the most part, I don't feel like I wasted time because I actually end up playing a champion that I might play on stage. So even if the game sucks, I at least got like 50 minutes of an Astral early game.
Cool.
Or something.
I think that's like a pretty healthy way to look at it. So if you're practicing and you're grinding the SoloQ during your break and otherwise, was there any point, I know initially you benched yourself. Was there a point where you were like ready to come back where you didn't come back? Or was there how long was the period of time where you felt like not playing with you was the right choice? Was it just those few weeks? Was it 8-14 where you feel like I should be back in here immediately? Talk to me a little bit about that, like that timeline for you between when you're at home grinding through the misery of SoloQ versus now coming back on stage to return.
So I think in the beginning, actually, I think the whole situation was a bit unlucky, actually, because in the beginning, I was with the team all the time. I was going to the office, like, if I was going to play LCS, if I was going to play all the scrims. And I was only playing 50% to begin with. And then Wipo played, I think, both the games in week 2 and both the games in week 3. And then after that, there was Rift Rivals, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
And I went with them to LA as well. And we got back from LA. And I think it wasn't until we got back from LA, where we were kind of all on board with playing with like Bwipo consistently and not having me play 50% of the scrims. So I think that week after and the week after that, I didn't play any scrims whatsoever, but I was still with the team up until week 6, I would say. And then after week 6, I just felt like I was wasting so much time because I was with the team the whole time, right? But I wasn't playing any scrims. So the only thing I was really doing was playing 20 games of SoloQ every day. But it wasn't really helping me to get better, and I didn't really feel like I was in a good state of mind either. So I asked for permission to go home to Sweden. And the time I went home to Sweden was the time 8.14 hit, and everyone started playing AD carries again. So I felt like I should be back in there on 8.14, but when 8.14 hit, I was back in Sweden. So the whole situation was a bit unlucky, but I got back as soon as I could. Like as soon as I saw the AD carries on the weekend of 8.14, I just traveled back to Berlin, and then I started practicing again with the team, so I was ready for the last week.
So is that, because last time we had Bwipo on the show, they were talking a little bit about like, if it came down to practicing 80 carries, he practiced 80 carries, and we saw specifically Xayah banned away from him in the G2 game, and it seemed like he was ready to be the 80 carry if needed. Was that line?
That was the week I wasn't there.
That was the week where you weren't there. Okay, cool. So would you say you were nervous at all when this guy was playing 80 carries too? Were you worried about not coming home to a team where you had a place, or was this more just like a crap, this is the week that I happened to go to Sweden, Bwipo, like play 80 carries, do what you have to do to be ready for the stage?
I think a mix of everything, but I would say when it comes to Sarah Khan, then the Xayah doesn't really have to do much, so I wasn't really feeling stressed out. I would feel much more stressed out if he was going up on something like Tristana, and then Hilly
he started carrying on it, and you're like, wait a minute.
Hilly was playing some sort of peel champion and not allowed to roam around and do his thing. I think that's when I would have feel like maybe this is not the approach we should take with Bwipo. But I think when it comes to playing Sarah Khan, the Rakan is the carry, and the Xayah is just there to give him a longer E and a W when he wants to auto attack. So I thought that was actually a good change that they made when I wasn't there. But ever since I got back, he stopped playing AD carries completely, and now I'm just the one doing the AD carry business, and he's the one doing the other stuff.
What does it do to a 5-year veteran? I would say 5-6-year veteran now, who's won double MVP, summer, spring, won multiple EU LCS titles, gone to Worlds multiple times. What does it do to you mentally when you bench yourself and start thinking, I might not even get to play again? Like you said earlier, you felt depressed. Like, do you want to talk more about that, or?
Well, so it was just like really simple. In the beginning, I thought that the game was just done for me. Like I thought this was gonna be the evolution of League of Legends, and AD carries would completely die out and only be seen in very, very specific scenarios. So I thought that this is maybe just the end. So it felt a bit natural for me to feel a bit sad and depressed. But it wasn't to the point when I was going crazy. I was still with the team, and I was still playing 50% of the scrims to begin with. So I thought it was okay. It was just a very frustrating situation because I didn't really have anything to say about it, which is why I understand why you said like the balance discussion we had for 30 minutes wasn't that valuable either, because in the end there's nothing we can do about these things. It's just something you have to do.
No. And to be fair, I thought
listen though, I think it's valuable.
I don't want to say it's not valuable.
Like, for example, if I go back to the Cannon situation, like when they nerf the Cannon there, I just have to accept that this is as champion that I have practiced now for 4 or 5 months straight and is no longer playable. So I just have to change everything up and dig whatever they are throwing my way. And the difference this time was that I didn't really feel like I could dig what they were throwing my way. I felt like it was just way out of reach for me now. So I felt a little bit more depressed than usual maybe, but I thought it was okay, man. As long as we won the games in the LCS, won Rift Rivals, I thought it's fine. I'm still a part of the team. It's not like I completely disappeared and they didn't see me for 7 weeks. The only time I was really gone was when I went back to Sweden for, I think I was home for 7 days maybe. And when I got back, I instantly went back into it, played the majority of the scrims, played on stage, showed up on Saturday as well. So I thought it was okay, the whole situation, honestly.
Yeah, one thing I want to make, or like, I guess two things. First thing that I want to make clear about the balance discussion is like, I think that the reality of a pro player is whatever happens, you have to adapt to it. And that's the harsh reality of your job, right? And in this case, you took a step back and I respect that. But that does not, I never ever want that to stop people from having conversations about the way the game is balanced.
Oh, that's how you get your voice out there.
Yeah, because like,
I just feel like currently the only way to get your voice out is to get a Reddit thread. Because I don't
Maybe
really...
this gets you a Reddit
Yeah,
thread.
sure, but I don't really have a person I can speak to. Like the Riot people that balance the game and the pro players that play it at the highest level have no connection whatsoever. I have never ever in my career spoken to a person that balances the game.
And look,
Directly,
I can't say that like that team doesn't contact pro players or does. I know that they hire a lot of former pro players to work on the playtest team, a lot of high elo players as well. But I don't know. Like it might just be not you. It might just be players in NA because those.
I think there's none of the EU players that does it. I think it's probably NA if something happens.
But I mean, like,
I suggest trying to request it.
Yeah, good to put it out there, especially if there's anyone who's gonna from the design team who's gonna listen to this. Talk to some of our EU pros, see what they have. Never hurts to have another opinion on the game. But the other thing I wanted to touch on was that a conversation that we've had before, and I can't remember if it was on this podcast or off this podcast. Rekkles was the idea that like if you weren't the right choice for the team, that you would take a step back. And this is the first split where you've done that. And you talked about like the depression and the reality potentially setting in, like if this mage meta existed as it did at 8-11 indefinitely, that you would never be the right choice again. Do you still feel like if it comes to it now in the future that you can make the choice to bench yourself again if that's necessary for the way that the game is played, or now are you worried more about it? Do you feel better now that you've tried it and gone through it? How has it changed since you've gone through this experience?
So I think if it happened again, I would still make the same choice. I would still bench myself and just let people play and collect the wins. Because if you think about it, he is at 100% already, or pretty damn good at these champions, and most of the other players who were trying them out weren't anywhere near the same sort of Swain, same sort of Vlad, same sort of Rice. So I think I made the right choice. But at the same time, it was very costful for me because I lost not only money, but I also lost a lot of exposure, which are things that I know a lot of other pro players would consider above competitive wins, especially when it comes to the regular season of LCS. So I understand the argument that people said I should have just continued playing. It doesn't matter anyways, because it's just LCS. But in my mind, whatever we are doing currently is going to have a huge impact on Worlds and the playoffs. So I just thought that if we have higher chance of winning with Whippo, then I should step down. Like there's this shouldn't be a discussion about this. So I never thought twice until I started playing now again, where I felt a little bit rusty maybe, and I'm not sure if I'm ready for playoffs or not. It's hard to tell, honestly, because I don't play all scrims, so I don't get that much like net worth of games that I can look over and think, okay, this is working and this is not working. I'm barely playing 12 games a week, I think, of scrims. And that's not a lot. That's a day of SoloQ.
Yeah, it's true.
Aside of scrims. So I think it's hard to say if I'm ready for playoffs or not, or if I'm ready for Worlds or not, but it's still a long way away. And maybe after this week of LCS, we're going to decide on a roster that is going to start in the playoffs, and they're going to do the majority of the scrims, and we have 2 weeks as well, so maybe I get in shape, problem.
Do you feel like this experience has helped Fnatic as an organization, or you guys as a team, really figure out how to run a 6-man roster, or do you feel like because this wasn't really a situation where it was done on your terms, right? It was much more like the patch changed, and this is a decision that you had to make that you didn't maybe get as much out of it as you could have?
Actually, I think it helped a lot for the 6-man, because I know we had a lot of issues before with the SOAS Bipo situation when they were kind of fighting openly. Like
top lane fight.
They were like fighting in interviews, which was very strange to me because we're living together. So if you have a problem with each other, you can just bring it up. It's no big deal. Everyone's just trying to win anyways. So if there's a problem, then you should fix it. But I think after this whole situation, everyone's much more on board with playing as 6 and not as 5. I feel like we have 2 different rosters that do 2 very different things, but everyone's on board with following the style that we want to use for each team. And for playoffs, this should be a great tool, honestly. I feel like in a best of 5, this should be a huge advantage.
Oh, yeah.
Regardless of who we're playing.
Definitely.
And for Worlds, if we make it out of groups, it should be a very similar thing. I think for groups, best of 1 system, when you're playing back to back, it might help a little bit. But I think for the most part, for a best of one setup, it will be much more about using the best roster, not whoever is
Yeah, I mean, I can
gonna
see
surprise the opponent.
the BO1 value could be unpredictability.
Yep.
Like, oh, Rekkles is playing, so I know it's gonna be an AD carry, but I don't know if he's gonna pick, early game, late game, whatever. And same for Whippo. People might not be 100% sure what's been practiced there. I have one last question about the whole, not playing thing. There's a lot of comments again from casters, fans, players, teammates, whatever it was. Like, how was that for you? Because everyone had an opinion on should Rekkles be playing.
Yep.
Why did Rekkles bench himself? Was it correct or not? Like, at some point, I assume you just get fed up with people having an opinion, or did you just ignore all of it?
Actually, after MSI, I feel like I've learned how to listen to myself in a way. So for MSI, I was very full of what everyone was saying, basically what you said, because everyone had an opinion on my play. Everyone thought, well, most of the people at least thought that I didn't do a great job at MSI and that I played the wrong champions, and I was like the reason why we didn't go all the way. I think if people said even stuff like if we had another ADC, we would have went to the finals, we would have won the whole thing. So I think after MSI, I learned to listen to my own opinion or use my own opinion as a higher value than others. So, for example, in this case, then I felt like the right choice for me was to step down. So I didn't even think twice about it. I just stepped down. And then I still, even though I don't read too much, still got the eye of what some people thought. And I felt like that's fair. Like, people can have their own opinions. But in the end, when I make decisions, regardless of what it is, if it's me stepping down or if it's me choosing what champions to play for the next MSI or for Worlds, maybe that will be more relevant, I should listen to myself. And I should always use my own opinion as the main one. That's basically it, I would say.
Okay, cool. All right, gentlemen, we have Twitter questions left. We want to talk a little bit about locking for playoffs as we're going to week 9, the final week of EULCS in the regular season. Now, Deficio, today we're just going to be talking about top 2, who is going to lock in those semifinals buys. Everything else you can, of course, watch on EULCS this Friday and Saturday. But top 2, who are your favorites right now? See if other Martin agrees.
I'm willing to put 100% all my credibility on Fnatic first place, Schalke second place. Schalke will play against Splice on Friday, which is actually a really huge game. And then on Saturday, I believe they play H2K. 2-0 Schalke, 2-0 Fnatic. I believe there might be a tiebreaker between Schalke and like Misfits or...
Yeah, so they're currently... G2? Schalke are currently 1-1 with G2, Misfits, and Vitality in terms of breakers. They are also 0-2 versus Fnatic. So in the event that they somehow
They will win the tiebreaker. Schalke second place. Rekkles, prove me wrong. Or agree with me.
Who do you think? Is there anyone else running at it right now? Standings are behind you. There's also the power rankings.
Yeah, I'm trying to look at the power rankings. I think... Well, I think for sure we end first. There's no way around that. We play Rocket and Unicorns.
Yes.
Yep.
And that should be just 2 wins. Like, no way around that.
I think this is basically your victory lap week. You are, however, 1-1 against the majority of the other teams.
Doesn't matter. If they do not 2-0 this
No, we're going to 2-0. I'm not worried at all. I just don't know which game I'm playing. But whichever game I'm playing, we're winning that one. And then the other game, I'll just claim.
Yeah. Yay!
But I would say we're going to end first. And then for second place, it's harder because I know a lot of my teammates feel like Schalke is the second best team currently in Europe.
Ooh, yes, say it again.
But I am not sold. But I think I'm also biased because I'm just always thinking like which team would be hardest for us, not actually which team.
Oh,
is the
this
best.
Discussion again. I remember from last.
Yeah, and this is the stuff that's like messing with my brain a little bit, because I would say, for example, if I want to avoid teams, I would want to avoid Vitality.
Why?
Because they just play out of the box, if that makes sense. Because I feel like we are a lot better than these teams at understanding what needs to be done on the map to get a win on the board. And they play so similar to us that we should just do it better. So I think a team like Splice, a team like Schalke, and a team like Misfits, we're just going to beat them because we're better at what they already do or what they're trying to do.
Okay.
Mm.
I think G2 is a little bit more of a wild card than those three because they are top focused rather than bot focused, which is something we have historically not dealt with very well. And Vitality is just all over the place. You never really know what to expect from them. They just do a bunch of crazy stuff, which is why I don't want to play them because
Right.
it's just I don't want to go 0-1 down because they do some stuff that shouldn't happen.
So if you could pick a team to be second place, would you pick Vitality? So
No, I wouldn't because I think their schedule is too hard. If I'm not mistaken,
They also
have
win behind.
Yeah, they're win behind and
Play
they
G2
have
Misfits.
G2 Misfits. And I wouldn't be surprised if they lose at least one of those games.
Mm-hmm.
And I wouldn't be surprised if Schalke wins both of their games. So I would probably agree with Schalke ending second due to the fact that Vitality is one game behind in their schedule. But I also wouldn't be surprised if Splice beats Schalke this week. Because I think Splice is a lot better than their standings suggest. Now that the meta has gone back to normal. I think they were the ones that struggled probably the most with the meta change.
Yes.
Out of the top teams, I think they just had no idea what they were supposed to do.
Who's the weakest of the 6 teams at the top?
I would say G2.
G2 is the weakest.
Yeah, because I think they were the ones that had the best time when the meta changed. And they are having the worst time now that the meta has gone back to normal.
Even though Giannis actually looked good when he played Zaya and his Vars and...
Oh yeah, I think Yarnan has been... I mean, I said this the last time I did a podcast with you as well. Like, Yarnan is above what people say.
Yep.
He is just not the superstar that you need if it were to be an AD carry meta. So in a way, it actually is fine for G2. I just think them or Misfits don't really have it going currently.
Right.
So then this kind of...
So it will be between them and Misfits, yeah, for the worst team.
Should do another episode just on this because there's a lot.
Let's do it. 2 episodes one day. Let's go.
But I wouldn't be surprised if, like, let's say Splice ends 6th and they play G2 on 3rd. Let's just say that potential matchup in a quarterfinals. I would not be surprised if we play Splice in a semifinals.
Interesting.
All right,
I mean, at this point, I feel like most of these teams are very even.
They are.
I was very impressed.
This is the 6th that I thought would go to playoffs already in spring. So I am not surprised that it's happening right now because it should have happened in spring already.
And I'm really happy it's happening because there's a lot of big names, a lot of big orgs, a lot of good players who's going to play in our playoffs now.
Yeah.
And we will probably avoid the 3-0 Splice versus Rocket quarterfinal we had last split, which obviously was not that interesting to watch.
I just think the standings would be different. Like if I could use these 6 teams, I would put them differently than how they're currently performing. I think Schalke is overperforming. I think Misfits are underperforming. I think Vitality is, it's hard to say, man. Like, I don't know exactly.
Let's talk about that a little bit because our match of the week this week is Misfits versus Vitality. This is pretty important for the standings. Like you mentioned, Vitality are 1 win behind. And while neither of these teams may make it into the top 2, they're both fighting for seeding. They're both fighting to see who they play that quarterfinal matchup
Misfits
against.
can definitely make top 2.
And who actually has the edge right now? Because you're giving a lot of credibility to Vitality, specifically as an opponent for Fnatic. But how do you think that they actually stack up against a team like Misfits, who you say are underperforming right now?
I think Vitality are gonna go 1-1 this week, and I think they're gonna beat Misfits and lose to G2.
So why are they going to beat Misfits? What about Misfits?
Because I think Misfits are just in a slump. Like, I don't know exactly what's going on there, but they're swapping players. They're doubting their champion pools. They don't have any macro going for them whatsoever. They're making really simple mistakes that shouldn't happen to a lineup that has played together. Like, the reason why I would put Fnatic first and Misfits second in my world of the 6 teams is because us and Misfits are the teams that kept their rosters for this year. So we shouldn't have macro issues at all. This should just be... This should just have been done like half a year ago. And Misfits are having macro issues.
So,
then
I don't know.
The hot topic is...
Last split too.
Jesus was supposed to come in. He was supposed to be kind of a late game shot caller and be that voice. Did you feel like that worked out for Misfits last week? How did you feel about that swap?
I think they should have lost the game against HK. And that says enough already.
They basically won it through a Baron steal. So, yeah. I think Misfits looked really, really weak last week. So my whole problem with the current Misfits lineup is, one, how good they actually were the first half of the split. When they played really aggressive early game, they put EUphoria on tanks, and they played a lot around bot side, which gave a lot of pressure, which allowed Mickey to then actually move with his jungler and then play towards mid after that. So it super benefited Sencooks, and it obviously benefited Hansama because they could play aggressive in lane because they always had a jungler taking Rift Scuttler on bot side and all these kind of things. And EUphoria literally just had top lane, never died, and just waited to TP somewhere. And it worked great.
Yeah.
So they had a strength, which was the early game, and specifically playing around the bot side. Now what they've done is they've removed that part of the game from them. They subbed in a player who's more focused on what's happening on the map.
Yeah, to quote him, he's a brain player, not a hands player.
Right.
Mickey X was the hands
in
player.
Genesis, where Mickey obviously is a much superior laner and a playmaker. And they're also picking differently now, which means there's less aggressive junglers for max lore and so on. So it's way harder for this team now to actually win the early game. They've tried to put carries on top side and play to top lane instead, which means Hansama doesn't do anything. And then Senkux doesn't get the help he normally got in the first half of the split, and that also hurts him. So now they're trying to be more of a, we will have a better late game, but their late game macro, spring split, was bad. Late game macro, this split is bad. So you've actually removed the strong part of your team, the first 20 minutes, and now said, we just want to be mediocre from minute 1 to minute 40.
Which are the minutes the Vitality is most successful in, minutes 1 to 20 especially.
Which is why I think they're going to beat them.
Yeah, I
think
agree.
G2 are as good as they should be, and I think Splice are as good as they should be, which is why I think Vitality will not beat G2, because G2 are actually pretty decent currently.
I like G2 right now. I think Yana is doing really well, which is huge for them with the change now. Gives them a lot of flexibility. They don't have to play carry top, but they can. So I think it's good. Misfits just like, they say obviously they want to use this time when they already locked in playoffs to figure out
I think
how do we
I
solve
hate
the
that
issues.
excuse, man. It's the
Well,
worst. I never listen to this stuff. When people say we're losing because we want to lose, I just...
Well, they need to fix their problem.
Yeah, but
I'm sure they want to win.
it's basically saying we're losing because we want to lose. In my eyes, at least. Like, if you want to win, then win the game then. Like...
I'm sure they would like to win, but they don't know how. And they're trying to solve that, right? Over these couple of weeks by putting in Jesses. We have to see this week if it does anything for them.
I want to see how it works out. I don't want to doubt it immediately, but last week was definitely not a good proof of concept in terms of the Jesus versus Mickey X option.
Did it go to... No, 1-1.
1-1. Because
they lost to G2.
They lost to G2.
Yeah.
Didn't they get stomped?
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of felt like a stomp, yeah.
Is that the Hjarn and Varus?
No, Sarah
Zaya one.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, then that was the game where we did...
Oh, yeah, it was the one where, again, they needed to get EUphoria on 80 cannon ahead.
Yep.
They messed up a little bit on top side. They only got him like 1 assist or something overall, and then they just lost everything.
Oh, yeah, that was a rough game. The Randuin's Omen cannon top.
And Perks was smurfing on Yasuo.
Very true. So we have a bunch of Twitter questions. I want to get a few in. And speaking of Misfits, Ben Spoont, at Ben Spoont, notorious owner
I could just tell by his work.
Misfits. So he asks, in the worst and lowest moment for you professionally this split, whenever this moment was, what kept you mentally motivated? Like, what kept you...
this split.
So, yeah, this split, or let's even ever, like, in your worst moments, what's kept you mentally motivated and continuing to play as a professional?
I think probably my worst moment was Elements, I would say. Or 2016, but probably Elements takes the prize.
2015 spring.
Yeah.
Biggest change in Europe. Rekkles, the superstar AD carry from Fnatic, joins Elements together with Froggen. Was supposed to be the European super team. Shook jungle, Froggen mid, Nif support, Wicked top lane, and then Rekkles AD carry. And then what happened?
Well, I still believe if we were playing for another org where stuff was set up for us, we would have done just fine. Like, actually, I looked back at some games a while back and I saw that we were doing good in the beginning. We're like 4-1 or 5-1.
Yeah.
And then we just dropped the ball somewhere in the middle there, which I don't think would normally happen. Like, I think if you have 5-1 on the board, you're going to go to playoffs at least. So even though it was probably the worst time I had, I think it was more of an outside factor than an inside factor. But I would say what kept me motivated was Worlds, because I went to 2014 Worlds and I felt like that was probably like the pinnacle for me of my career. Not only because the games were cool or close games, but just like the whole atmosphere around Worlds is so different from the atmosphere around LCS. So even though I had a tough time in the LCS, I felt like it didn't really mean much.
So how does that? So now, when you look at these moments where you're kind of feeling down on your career and you're concerned about stepping away from League of Legends, is it still Worlds that keep you coming back?
Which is why I think it was fine that this happened now in the regular season, because it is the regular season of the LCS. But if it, for example, were to happen for Worlds, like let's say in another world where I dominate the summer split in a similar fashion to the spring split. I win another trophy, another MVP. I'm 3 MVPs in a row. I'm on my fourth trophy, I think. And then we go into Worlds, and Riot release a patch where there's no longer 80 carries, and I have to bench myself for the entirety of Worlds. I think that would be a breaking point. I think benching myself for Rift Rivals and weeks 2 to 7 of a regular season, it sucks, but it's not the end of the world. So honestly, I wasn't even that far down in a hole or anything during the split. I thought it was sad and it sucked, but it's okay, man, as long as we win. And I think I would feel that in the moment as well during Worlds, but it's just such an opportunity to miss out on.
Oh yeah, I mean, you work for this the entire year, basically.
And then the only thing you get to do is watch from the sidelines. I think that would probably be the breaking point for me, and that's when I would probably reconsider if I want to play the next season.
Speaking of that moment, and let's hope that it doesn't happen, but on the off chance it does, Felix at Crepes for Dinner asks, does he have plans for when you retire? So do you have plans for when you retire? Are you going to continue in the league scene, or do you see yourself working on something else? So once again, God forbid that you retire. Obviously, EU loves you, but if you do leave, if you do decide to step away from League of Legends, do you want to stay in esports? Are you like gonna pursue a new? Are you secretly a baker like Soaz? Maybe you have some other talent that you've been waiting. A musician? Are you a rap god? Like what else is out there for you in the world?
Not really anything, I would say. I don't really have an education, so if I want to do something within computer technology, which is what I studied, I would have to pull another 3 + 5, 8 years, which is something I obviously don't want to do. So for me, at least, I'm going to stay within the industry in one way or the other. But I don't want to do that instantly. So like, let's say in a theoretical world, I would retire after the season. I don't think next season I would already be there as a coach or a caster or whatever would fit me within the industry. I would want to take a year and just travel the world, because I have been pretty much everywhere, but I haven't seen much.
Yeah,
because most of the time,
trust me, like,
most of the time we just sit in the hotel, right?
Yep.
And then the only real time we get outside is when we travel to the venue. There is not much else to it. So what I want to do is backpack around the world, and I would probably want to start in New Zealand, I think, and check out the Hobbit village. New profile.
I always forget that's there, and then every time someone goes to New Zealand, I'm like, that's where they play.
And then I would like to do Australia. I've been there once before, and it was amazing. I would like to do that. And then some parts of Asia I haven't been to.
Denmark.
Some of the islands. Yeah, and in Scandinavia.
Yeah, of course.
Just, check everything out. I think that would be a great
Makes a lot
adventure.
of sense. Also taking a break, like a real break.
So I don't know what this is called in English, but there's a lot of people that do this after their high school last year. They take a year off.
Take a year off, yes.
Gap year is what
Gap year, maybe that's what they call it. And then after that, they start studying again. So I would kind of want to do a year like that and then come back to the scene and do something else within the industry.
It's very interesting. The first thing you said is you don't have an education, because that's very normal for professional League of Legends.
That's almost all of us.
So many of us in sports.
17 years old, and you go straight from finishing, or you probably quit halfway through.
I did 1 year. I don't think Caps did 1 year. I think he did 0.
He might have been even too young, because he started when he was 16 in Turkey. So
we would have gotten that guy from the cradle if we could have.
At some point, this, for a lot of these players, is going to end. Like you can only play for so long, and who knows what's going to happen.
How long do you think players can play for?
I mean, I think they can definitely play longer than people said a couple of years ago. It's like, the moment you're 23 or 4 or something, you have to quit. Like, I think people can continue playing, but is there room for them? There's only 10 LCS teams, and there's new young players coming every year, it feels like.
I just feel like I can't get overrun, if that makes sense.
No, there are certain players who are pretty safe for now. There's
a
lot of other players.
In 5 years of time, I will still be much better than the new guy.
And that's something you should use for the players where that's not going to be the case, the lower tier LCS players right now. I just wonder what happens when that wave of players, have to stop playing professionally first in the LCS. Luckily in Europe, you can then go to a national league.
Yeah.
You can probably still do that for a couple of years. So that might just be long enough that it doesn't matter, and you
coaching opportunities.
Coaching. There's
also all of your income is disposable income because your housing and food is paid for. So just save some money so you can go back to school if you need to.
I just want all our nice players who commit to this for so many years from when they're 17 and forward. I want them to have something to do
absolutely.
when they quit.
For sure.
I don't want it to be, I'm now 25. Do I go back to school at 25? Okay, I guess I can do that for some. Or do I try and find a job where it's not esports related, but I don't actually have any qualifications because all I've done for 8 years is play video games. So I really wonder. Luckily, I think in Europe there is enough in esports because of all the national leagues and all the different teams. There should be enough for people to do as long as you want to commit to it.
Yeah.
Or get yourself a brand, become a streamer or whatever it is. That's also a way to do it.
So one last question before we close out for the day. This one's much more BS than the other ones, but you got to get one fun one in there. All right. John Wallace Howell, John Howell 77 on Twitter said, if Riot gave you the power to remove one champion from the game, who would it be? Rekkles. What champion would you delete? You could delete Kennen in protest and say if he can't be played bot lane, he can be played nowhere.
Actually, they do play top now. I've seen some in LCK, some AP Kennen.
There you go.
I did actually try AP Kennen bot lane when
really
I
good.
was...
Top lane, that is. I don't know about bot lane.
No, I tried it. It wasn't that great. I could barely lane. You barely can lane with AP Kennen, actually. But okay, either way, one champion. I would probably say Nocturne. I would say Nocturne, yeah. I think Nocturne I just hate Nocturne, man. Like, there's no counterplay. It's really boring. Because even if you're not the guy getting ulted, you just don't see anything. So you can't help the guy that is getting ulted.
What if they removed all the buffs they gave him this year and he became the Nocturne of last year?
I think even last year when I played against it at Worlds, it was painful.
Okay, yeah, fair enough.
I just think his ult doesn't have much counterplay.
Okay.
I think if either the darkness circle was bigger or there wasn't any darkness in the first place, but I guess then he loses his...
It's kind of lame ult.
Yeah, then it becomes a lame ult. I just think it's sad when you are the guy getting ulted, and it's also sad when you are not the guy getting ulted. Like, either way, it's just sad. When you hear the darkness, you know someone is dying, and it sucks.
I have a lot of ideas on how to change that, but that could be another episode. But, like, I agree. Something has to give. It either needs to not be a point and click, because the darkness effect is dope. It's super
It is cool.
Yeah.
But it needs to be something. It can't just be a point and click, one shot in 80.
I really feel like he was not a problem until this year when they like buffed him over multiple
They buffed
patches.
him like 7 patches in a row.
That's what I'm saying is they could just nerf him again and then...
But I think it's cool that he's playable. I actually like
he should
his
be playable,
design as
but
a
not
champion.
obviously...
Because he has some dual power,
shot.
and then he has some assassination later. So it's a cool champion to have in the game.
Also, he gets punished if he ults at the wrong time. Like, he does get punished.
Yeah, but that's like a... Like, if you're a Nocturne player, I feel like it's a lot easier for you to choose when to ult than for the guy that's getting ulted.
That's
to
fair.
choose when to die.
Definitely.
Yeah, you don't really get the agency in that one. You just kind of have to hope that the Nocturne player isn't smart about when he pushes the button.
I think that's when you just don't want to see that Worlds. Because if...
Sure.
Like, let's say Levi was still alive, and he played against me at Worlds, and his Nocturne was pretty good the last time I saw it. I wouldn't want to be in a situation where I hope he's not good enough. I just feel like that's not...
I'm not saying that's a viable option. I'm definitely not saying that's how you should play around Nocturne. Just hope that they're not good.
We need to just remove Akali W.
I agree.
That is... So, I have
At
this
least
problem.
think she should be seen.
Yeah, it's just... I have
Like,
this problem
I'm
with stuff
fine
like
with...
that.
I'm actually, I'm not fine. But let's say she can't get hit by towers. That's life. That's just Riot Games.
Right.
But the fact that you can't see her with pink wards, with sweepers, you don't know where she is in the cloud, and the cloud just gets bigger and bigger, and at some point it's your entire lane. She can be anywhere in that donut. You just have nowhere.
Then she hits you for a lot of damage. I dislike abilities that are only fun for the player, not fun for anyone else. Like those kind of abilities, like I understand the idea about like, oh, new things, new mechanics in the game, trying to change up whatever people are used to, but it needs to be something where the 5 players playing against the Akali do not just stand there and think to themselves, wow, this is just not fun.
And where does she go after? That's why I think if you could actually see her, you could cover the points where she want to leave.
Yeah.
She doesn't really have a dash after that.
Anything. Or give it a 10 million second long cooldown.
Akali
1 per game.
is busted, for sure. I agree. But before we go, just so this doesn't turn into a 20-minute Akali conversation, because I know we could do it about how to fix this champion, we think, from our perspective at least. Rekkles, is there anything you want to say? I
was actually going to ask you if you wanted to ask me something else, because I know we talked a lot about why I benched myself and my feelings about that. We also talked a lot about Riot Games
Yes, sure.
and their way of handling the game. So is there anything else you want to ask me?
Well, I think for us, I think we've gotten to ask you a lot of questions. Is there anything you want to say to your fans to end this out? Because I know you've been doing some more interviews, but you've kind of been out of the public eye. I know there's been a lot of people trashing on you, and there's been a lot of people supporting you either way. Yeah. Is there any kind of, as like a closing remarks thing, is there anything you want to say to the fans and the supporters of Rekkles?
So first, I actually want to say something about the interviews.
Yeah.
Because I actually only really do interviews with Travis. That's been my thing for a while now. And it's not public knowledge. It's something I've never really said. But the reason is because I feel like a lot of the other interviewers we have just clickbait. Okay. And people don't watch the interviews for the most part. And I know Travis is much nicer in that regard. He doesn't actually like put you out there if you say something that could be a little bit controversial. He leaves it a bit more subtle. So I just always do interviews with him because I know that the content he pushes out is going to be good for me and it's going to be good for him. There's no like not one of us getting all the pluses.
Cut the clickbait title. We don't need it.
You mean that one part where he said, let's say theoretically I'll bench myself or I retire next year? We'll just make that Rekkles. I'm retiring next year.
But yeah, when that's out of the way, maybe I don't really feel like there's anything I need to say because I feel like most of the people that follow me, they understand why I did what I did. So I don't feel like I have to apologize.
No, I'm not asking you. And like, that's not even what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I was just maybe like, thank you guys for supporting me. Like, definitely
I mean, it's always cool you have to that apologize. They stick with me because whenever something like this happens, I have a little bit of a worry that people are just going to bail. They just don't want to be a part of my world anymore. So obviously, I'm very grateful to the people that stick around. But for the most part, I feel like everyone has a really good idea of what is going on. And they are super excited that I'm back and that I'll be playing some games this weekend and hopefully the weekends after that. So I'm just excited, man, to be back and to play some League of Legends again and to be able to play some League of Legends again because that wasn't my feeling for the past 7 weeks or so. Yeah. So it's exciting times. I can play some AD carries on stage and I don't have to feel like I have to risk all the biscuits with Swain first time.
Look,
sadly,
I'm excited. We're very excited.
We're excited to have you. You let me know if I need to fire Deficio and hire Travis Gafford to come host this talk show with me. We'll make it happen. You guys are
cool as well. Like I like all the Riot content that is pushed out. I always say yes to this.
Phil, this is the part of the video you put in the teaser.
Yeah. I like
these last 5 seconds.
Please leave this part in and maybe a little bit less of the part where we're incredibly critical.
What about the cutout? Do you like it?
Cool as well. Yeah,
some people asked if you would marry it.
Actually, I think it's better than I expected because I saw it on air, right? And I thought maybe you guys are using some camera tricks, but it's like it's a live,
high quality.
Yeah, it's
once again our producer, Philip Choi,
boy. Right?
Fantastic.
No legs, but like that's
yeah, it doesn't have legs. This has been episode 9. Episode 9,
yes.
Season 2 of the EUphoria podcast with Rekkles and the Rekkles cutout at the same time. Thank you everyone so much for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed us. Let us know, comments, YouTube, iTunes, SoundCloud, saying it at the end for some reason, even though you've already probably listened to the whole thing.
Last time.
I know, it happens. Match of the week this week is Mists vs Vitality. It is on Friday. It's the 4th or 5th game. I'm not sure which one. Check it out. Also check out Rekkles and what we can call an easy breezy week. He might be playing Friday, he might be playing Saturday. We don't know, so just watch all of it. All right, thanks everyone for watching. We'll see you guys next time.
Thank you.
Terrible ending.